and things from the flood. You can tell the free league systems I really like, and I've got lots of them. And I've run this system both offline around the table. I went through the 4 seasons of Science, and online on Roll20 actually. I've run the Recycled Boy. It's very good fun. But I haven't run anything with the official rules modules yet. I did run a Things from the Flood adventure of Flesh and Steel, I think it's called. That was working quite nicely. So today I'm going to start with a fresh world, completely from scratch. You can just about maybe see when I show you that in a minute that I already have the Things from the Flood on here. I might, depending on the time, I might be able to go into that at the end. Give you a quick show of what I had previously configured. It's very basic, because this is a game that is really a storytelling game. Yes, you need to roll occasionally, but it's not a battle. So I use it very much more like a visualizer on this one. There will not be any walled maps or anything like that. So let's have a look what you get when you buy this. Now this is the cover not of the core rulebook, but Out of Time, which is an adventure collection, but I really like this adventure collection and the pictures. I thought everybody knows the core rulebook, this one not everybody. So let me get the sources stacked up, right? Of course, this is all on my small screen, so everything on my screen says this is too small to be displayed. Bear with me while I say this. I might have to shift this. So, I want to show you this Foundry, and I'm going to get rid of the title picture. So this is my Foundry setup that is actually running on my local Raspberry Pi. That's a different story for another time. Because that is, let's say it was an adventure to set it up. I don't think I could do it again without following step by step for the instructions. So I create a new world, and we're going to call it Tales from the Loop. Yeah, Tales official. That's my data path. I tend to, especially if you're working on Linux or the Raspberry Pi, anything to do with data names, file names, try to keep it lowercase, because case matters in Linux. And if you're not consistent, basically, you're going to create a rot for your own back. So, create world. That's done. I have got both modules enabled, or installed, not enabled yet. So let's give it a go. Game master. Join game session. See if I can at least get my chat open. Yeah. Should work. And can you still see it? No, you cannot, because it's now attached itself to the wrong screen. So, that you can see. Completely blank system. I haven't enabled anything, so I'm going to go to the modules. I'm going to install a couple more than my usual set. So about time, background list pins, break time, chat portrait, compendium folders. Don't need that, don't need that, don't need that. Some scene enhancements, so I can just click on it. Dice are nice. Don't need all of those. GM screen. Well, hey, listen, we always go for those. Journal anchor links, probably don't need them. Scale I will need. Test it, whether it works. Very useful. Narrator tools, definitely. Permission viewer, I always need that. Pings, or pings and pointers, I think it's called. Neither of those work. And I think show artwork, show notes. Yeah, these are the two. There's from the Loop core rulebook and official starter set. So, Things from the Flood is a UI mod that gives you the different character sheets. So I'm going to leave that off for now, unless it's somewhere. So, refreshing it, and we're getting our 2 imports. Calendar, okay, fine. 2 imports. Got Dr. August, David Rogers, who's done the import scripts, and Mediocre Dad has helped with the Free League Dev Discord. I might be interviewing a couple of those people on the stream soon. So, what have we got? We've got the starter set. Let's start with that. Import it. Fail to import. Okay, so should have tested that before. Clearly, I need to update my Tales from the Loop version. Version 110 is below the minimum required of version 106. I'm not sure that's right, actually. This might have to be cut short, and I might have to go back to my own install of it if this doesn't work. How about this one? Fail to import. So let me check that, shall we? I'm going to go back to my setup page. This is not as planned. And we're going to go to Game Systems, Update All. Tales from the Loop is now 1.2. It's definitely was in need of an update. Okay. So back to it. Worlds. World. You can tell I didn't rehearse this. So again, we've got my two imports. Let me zoom in slightly. A bit clearer for you if you're watching this on the stream. So let's see, import, how that works. So starter kit, import complete, no issues. First impression, gosh, that's bright. There's a lot of white on the page. We've got the typical padding around it again, which I think just looks odd, but okay. And then we do the same. Take a while, but it doesn't take a long time. There we go. That's what I like. You have a table of content right away. You know, you can see exactly what the layout is going to be, and it's nicely presented. The mystery, the inclusion of the buttons, and as always, the show artworks, because I'm working through a browser, doesn't seem to work so well in the Foundry. So close this off and explore a little bit. First thing you should always do is just open and close your dice are nice, because that will pick up the right configuration. So the weather today is -8 and there's a blizzard outside. Luckily not. It's not true. It's pure fiction. We have some scenes. The starter set has got a scenario in it called the Recycled Boy. I'll try not to spoil it. On here, this is actually good format, isn't it? That's pretty much the title of the rule book. With the Rix Energie on the side. It's a decent format, but again, the grey and the padding, get rid of that, guys. Make it black. Then we've got the main map, which is the Malayan Islands. I'll go there sometime soon. Yeah, again, very similar. Let's see what the resolution is like. Yes, it starts breaking up around there. What's also noticeable, let me just double check here. But what's noticeable for me is there's absolutely no map notes on this. So when I prepared it for my own game, I put various notes on it, but that's strictly speaking not on the rulebook. So I guess I can understand that they didn't do that. But I had things like the school, for example. If you had the school, that's in Stenhamra, so I put that in there. The loop is up here. Yeah. Oh, ping, ping. There's my ping. That's a bit small. So up there is the loop. And then there are various other sites that you could label. Okay, next one. If you want to play this in the United States, in Boulder, Colorado, that's what that looks like. It's about the same resolution, I reckon. It's always a balance, of course, to see how much resolution you can get and how big the file sizes go. So if you want to import your own maps at some point, make sure you convert them from JPEG, whatever they come into, WebP. I certainly have saved huge file sizes. We have slight spoilers. We've got the house plans here. They are a bit sharper. They're good. And I guess there's no walls. No, you don't really need walls for this stuff. Yeah, fog of war. You can use it. You can do manual fog of war on this as well. There's a boat. You see here, clearly there's a grid over it. Let's see, does that come from the underlying graphic? or is that actually just the overlay? Underlying graphic. Yeah, I had the grid on it already. You know me, yeah, by now, if you watched a couple of my videos, I always say padding. Padding, you don't really need padding unless you're working with tiles around it or something like that. And there's nothing here that requires that. And I would also shade down the background just because it glares in the eye. So much white on the screen, especially if you've got a powerful HDR screen, it gets very bright in the eye. So let me just make the background a bit darker. Yeah, for me that's a bit clearer. Although what I might have just messed up, I realize, is that the titles here relied on the padding. If I switch the padding back on, 25%, there's an overlay here with the titles. That still looks better than before, I think. Because here you can actually, on black, you can see the frame around it, where the padding is. Okay, what have we next is, I don't want to go into that one. I skip past that one quickly because it might have a slight spoiler. So, maps, okay, yeah, nothing special there. Padding always is one of the things I will switch on. For the core game, you've got the 1, 2, 3, 4 seasons of mad science, as the 4 scenarios in it, and you've got the mystery landscape. So you've got very much the same map here. I guess it's set up the same way. Yeah, padding, it's the same map. Same sort of quality on it. We've got these, I think they're hard copy, the cream shop. We've got some locations on it. No, they actually, it's not quite the same map. We've got these locations on it. Yeah, school library. And for me, I would just, I'm assuming that in the core game you will have the journal entries. Let's have a look for school. For example, the school library, we've got a journal entry. I would just have put a note on there, yeah, and then pick a different icon. So for example, we'll go for a house. Now for me, that's already a bit clearer, right? There's a place. And if you enable, I think I showed you this before, in your module settings, if you go to pincushion, did I not enable it? Oh, hang on a second. We'll fix that. So there's a couple of modules I clearly have forgotten. Pincushion I haven't enabled, and I haven't enabled the tidy UI, which tidies up the options for all the modules you've got. We'll see that in a second. As I said, all running with my Raspberry Pi this bit. So where was I? I was on the map. The core rulebook called the Adventure Landscape, Mystery Landscape, and we were here. Mystery Landscape. Chat has been quiet today. So, Oculus. So I have my school down here. And what I can now do, if I look at the settings for the module again, module settings, and I go to my pincushion, you have you can show a journal preview. So if I, as an owner, somebody who's got rights to that journal node, hover over it, I will be getting a preview of what the content is, which allows me to very quickly, you can see it here, very quickly get an overview. That's probably a little bit too much, but you see how it works, right? That you can actually hover over something like so, and then it pops open an overview. So you don't have to actually double click on it and work my way through here. It works especially nicely with shorter descriptions. So I would tag this up, but again, not every player will want to do it, not every GM will want to do it. So if it's not included, it's not a big deal, I suppose. Also, this relies, of course, on being able to see the notes. So that's where this module I've selected earlier, Show Notes, comes along. That shows the notes even if you're not on the bookmark icon. Right, back to the scenes. I think we're still in scenes. Yeah, I don't really want to go into too many of these, but you can see that there are a number of copies of this main map. I guess there's a main map like this for the different scenarios because the locations are different. So different locations matter. Yeah, which one was my favorite? Absolutely Summer Breaking Killer Birds. When I ran that was a hoot. We had a really, really good time to do this. It's a really good adventure. So, I think it starts, yeah. Actors are very light here. So you get the pre-gens for the characters basically that are included in the starter kit, and that's it. You don't have any of the NPCs that are around the islands here. They're not really spec'd out anyway in the books. So again, that makes sense. You've got the graphics here as well. And let's see whether the tokens have been configured. Drag Frederick on? No. So Frederick doesn't have a face when he's on the map. Again, it's not a battle map, but that shouldn't be hard to do. So we've got the nicely trimmed out portrait on here. All we should be needing to do as an extra step is going into the image. It seems to be, oh, it's just Frederick avatar. Okay. Let's have a look at where that's stored. I go to modules, I go to my Tales from the Loop starter. I go to assets usually, and images are character art. Character art, Frederick. Select file. Yeah, update token. If I did everything right, we now have Frederick. That's better. So he's got the assets in the file. David has put the assets into it, but they're not linked. So that might just be a bug actually, or an oversight, not including them. That's for Tim, that works. For Maria, that works. For Linda, it doesn't work. Isabella, it doesn't work. And for Frederick. I changed this now. It's a different picture. Interesting. So, US kits, same pictures. Yeah, same icon missing. 3 of them are there. 2. That's a bit inconsistent. Items, you'll see why this is going to be a bit shorter, this video. Items, you've got one thing. Again, it's not a game where you need kit. The kits are going to have their own devices, their own possessions, their own treasured things that they have, special items, and they have to invent them anyway, so you don't need a long list of equipment. So that's absolutely fine. The key here is, of course, having the information in a good format to run the game. Reading it in a book is one thing. Running it a game is a different thing. And this is a compromise. If you only buy the rule book on Foundry, it's always a compromise. So I did already show you earlier that we had a really nice looking index page, which is this one, welcome. So you've got here a table of content, and from here you can navigate anywhere. Now you can see by the books that they're all linked to the journal, not to the compendium, because you can link these things to the compendium as well. So that means if you change anything, for example, if I went into the US loop, I'm going to mess around with my system for a minute. For the USA loop. Yeah, if I now click on the US loop here, it should have taken me, oh, maybe I got that wrong. Maybe it does actually link to the compendium. Yeah, seems to be. Okay, never mind that. So, that's fine. So from here I can get to anything. One of the first things you always do is character creation. So if I go to the kids, yeah, if you wanted to talk your players through this, they will have to have access to the different types, of course. You can easily share, but I don't think they're going to be shared with anybody. So let's have a look at the kids. Permissions, all players, none. So you would have to give them probably observer to be able to look at them as you go through your checklist. So you start with type, decide your age, luck points, etc. Pick a problem, drive, and everything's nicely linked up. So if you want to find out what's this pride, how does it work, then you've got all the links there. I would share that with my players in the character creation at least. And then they would each fill in a character sheet. So, yeah, so this very much looks like the printed one. You've got your 4 attributes and 3 skills per attribute. You've got experience tick boxes. Left click to add, right click to take one away. You have drop downs for the different types. I think in the module settings you can choose some extra types. So system settings, kit type editor, and you can use additional kit types in France. There's an 80 supplement, apparently really good in French, where you have extra types. What I do notice, however, if I click on kit type editor, it doesn't do anything. I noticed that when I last tested it the other day. Yeah, I don't know what it's supposed to do, whether there's supposed to be a list somewhere, but currently either I'm doing it wrong or it doesn't work. I don't think there's anything. Sometimes the system settings for the module, they can be in there or they can be in there. So you may have to look at both. So, yeah, that's filling in. That's pre-filled, age tint 15, that's correct. Now, can you choose a different sheet? Not yet. Yeah, there is, as I said, the things from the flood when the kids get a bit older. There's an extra module for that, and I'll see whether that works together with it. The iconic items, you just type it in, whatever it might be, put a plus on it, edit it, and say, my iconic item is my yo-yo. That's a +1 bonus, maybe +2. Because it's iconic. You can put a different icon on it, a different picture. Now remember, if you have this installed, you can always use, this is a bit slow, I have to say. User data modules, the game icons.net. Yeah, and if you wanted to have a black icon, black background, yeah, let's go for that one. Then you get the overview, and you can pick something, anything out of these as well. So that really gives you a huge number of icons as well. Don't think they'll have a yo-yo. Let's take this thing. Yeah, and if you want to have the different color scheme, then you can. But it's not really displayed unless you go into the item detail. There's not a lot more to say on this one, right? Notes for your character. Yeah. So very simplistic because the game system is very simplistic, which makes it really focus on storytelling. I like that. So what else have we got? Yes, my wife is cluttering the relationships. Yeah, that's all pretty nicely explained. We've got handouts. How to use these handouts. So the 41 handouts on this folder are intended to help the game master set the mood in there. Spelled games. To use them, simply peruse the images for one you find evocative and then click Show Players button on the top of the window. Excellent. Yeah, really games really live from the art. And you need a way of sharing. So there's 1 or 2 broken links here. 3, a couple of the pictures seem to be missing. But if I wanted to click on one of them, so this one here, show art. Oh, I can't look at them myself. It goes straight to show art. Let me try and resize it so we can see this properly. But now click on dinosaur. Where's the dinosaur? Dinosaurs. There we go. That's the picture. And then you just click on Show Players up there in the top right corner, and then we'll say you can share these or you can show these. So show to all will then show it to all the different players who are currently on. And I like that as a function. It's much easier than multiple games. Or VTTs, I should say. So, what's not included, because there is no official soundtrack, is your music. You will need some music, I think. If you want to play this in the 80s, ask the kids what their favorite musics are. Like number 14 in the character creation here is choose your favorite song. Ask that. I made a bit of a playlist. I had roughly all the ones from my 4 players, and I had another 14 or so tunes from the right time. So I actually looked up the year and the charts at the time. I just had a bit of fun. Reminiscing my youth. When I was in the 80s, I was 1984. Yeah, I definitely was into popular music by that point. And then whenever a song came on, that was one of the kids' favorite song on the playlist, I would give them a +1 bonus for all their roles. Yeah, it's like their style song. That was quite good fun. Because they really were listening out for those tunes. I was around the table though. Yeah. So, you can't really run a battle scenario on this one because you don't really do that. You tick off conditions. Actually, let me try that. Text. So if we've got a body 3, a force 2, for example. Yeah, that's nice. So if I click on force, then it will roll it. You have the chance to use your yo-yo. Why not? I get a bonus because somebody's helping me. So we have all the dice, and this is the official dice set. And I've got 1 success, and if I re-roll, now to do this in the game, I actually have to take one of the conditions. Yeah, so it will re-roll it, but it will not prompt me to say re-roll, take one of the conditions. But if I do this now, I should get 1 fewer dice than indicated. So instead of 5, I should now be rolling 4. Let's see if that's true. Yeah, so we've got +3, +2, -1 because I'm upset. For that. So that's implemented like that. Good. Works. That's all I really need. Luck points you can spend as well, but read the rules if you're interested. Clear out the chat for a moment. And then I think I'm pretty much through with this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to look whether I missed anything. So the macros. No, that's from a narrator tool, so there's no macros in the system. And the scenes. Yeah. Some of the images are broken. So if I go to the scene, this is in a compendium now. Reach. So back here. There's the maximum ship. Yeah, the ship is there. That's not the issue. The ship is there, it's just the thumbnail that seems to have gone. So, and the last thing I want to check is if I switch on my much older than the recordable set things from the flood module. Reload. I should now have the chance to create a different character sheet. So, things. It's not a person's name, it's just because it's things from the flood. Okay. You can see the color scheme has changed. Yeah, if I want to have Tess next to ours, changed for both of them. That's just a style pack. There are different types. So, unless there's a setting I haven't seen somewhere. And this doesn't work. It's just inputting. I would actually struggle probably inputting a 17-year-old into the system. So that would be a nice enhancement to be able to say, okay, we can actually switch the mode either for that or for everybody. So you've got the older half and you can play things from the flood on this. The rule system is basically the same. It's just that some of the character classes are different. And I think the pride is called shame, because as a teenager you don't have a pride, you have a shame. I think that's pretty much the difference between them. So it should be quite easy to implement. So that didn't quite work as expected. Now I'll briefly show, if you're still interested, briefly show the implementation that I've made. It's not a lot to see, but it's quite good fun. So if I go to my go to setup. So try to set up things from the flood, launch world. Still loading, still loading. There we go. By the way, you're very quiet in the chat. Feel free to say something. So I have this flesh and steel scenario. This module might not work. That was my cover. That's how we started it off. Yeah, so on here, for example, I created pretty much an empty scene, just a square of color. So it looks a little bit like a record label, or record sleeve from my youth, so that would have been early 90s. Created some characters, and here, I think on this one I've got the core rule sets enabled. Do I? Oh, I do. But for whatever reason on this one here, I can have the age of 17, 18, 19. Probably because I installed the other module first, things from the flood first. I'm thinking. Because the system, Tales from the Loop official system, the system is the same. Yes. And to run a game like this, yeah, I did put a few things on here for myself. For example, I created character creation. All right. It will be module settings. Foundry. I think I used the Foundry for. As we wait for it to reload. That's slower than it should be. What else is going on there? So let's go back to the journal. Yeah, so you can see here I just embedded a PDF. As I was talking my players through it, they then were able to read up on the different templates here. And that's the quickest way really to. If you have a few sheets you want to share with your players, to give that a nice format, good form that they can read at home, using Foundry is really good for them. So I then had the typical questions, yeah, to establish a bit more of the character. That's basically character creation section I just created. I didn't have the whole rulebook. I had some handouts on here, which are scenario handouts, and if you can see it, you might be seeing the screen. Ah, should have said something. I just realized that you can't see some of the stuff I was doing. So now you should be able to see just about there. You can see my mouse pointer, or next to mark notes on the calculator. It's got a colored square, and that means basically that was shared with the players. Got some basic rule reference in here, like what do you ask, which questions do you ask at the end of the session? How does helping each other work? So they are the questions that often come up. That's the module. I created my own versions of each skill for the simple reason that you've got these bonus effects. So if somebody wants to look up and say, oh, I've got an extra success, how can I spend it? You can just point them straight to it. And I created a bit of information about the loop. So that's what I was saying about the map. So these are some of the key locations that the kids who live on the island would have known about. So I wanted to have them included. We've got problems here. So this was for me, not for the players. So I can tell each character background, what was the problem for them. And then the individual problems. What's their shame? So Annika was Elena. And then basically relationship to the other player. So I could play on that. Who's her anchor? I copied that out for quick reference. And I would typically put this sort of stuff onto the GM screen. So my map. This would have been my map. Let's see how it compares when I zoom in. Pretty much the same sort of resolution as in the official American. This is the things from the flood. Loop map, slightly different to Tales from the Loop, because it's later. It's stuff that's flooded. But I still have here the hometowns that they were originally from. I've got cooling towers here as a Tower of Sauron, because I always thought it looked like that. I've got the army signs post out there. These were locations that I then knew from the beginning, or that they uncovered during their investigations. And I drew in a few forest paths for them. So using this markup tool over here. Because they were chasing people there down the forest paths. Right, the display scene, I'm not sure, that might not work anymore, but the idea here is there's a module called Journal to Canvas Display, I think, but it has been updated since I did it. So when you have a journal entry with a picture, picture. So if you click on the picture, basically, it will change the image that is being displayed on the canvas. So it's like a slideshow you can make with that module. It's quite clever. Have I got it in here? So these are my notes here. If I clicked on that, yeah, it's not enabled right now. If you have that module properly configured, and they changed it massively since around this game, if you click on that, it takes a second or two, and then it will actually display to the players on the canvas rather than an extra pop-up. So that's really clever, I think. Worth checking out. All right. Still, as far as I can tell, no questions in the chat. This brings me to the end of just talking through the official things from the flood. Sorry, Tales from the Loop, and my own things from the flood. I hope you found that interesting. Did I have map walls on here? No, I don't think I did any walls. Yeah, I sometimes enhance it with things. Tiles, so I will, this is where the padding can actually be useful. So you can see the picture here goes over the edge. If on this here, I didn't have any padding, so configure it. No padding. What will happen is the picture gets pushed in. And if you then go to tiles on the left, you try to push it off, it disappears. So if you want to do a little bit of a storyboard or something like that, you need some padding around the edges. And I don't mind that on here, with the black background, you can't see the extra line, which I don't like. 50, 45%. Or shift things a little bit. Place them. And these are leaflets and bits that we found in this house. So as a GM, I will typically start with them invisible. Yeah, we go for the masked man in the corner. And when the players then find something, I can just go on and say, oh yes, look, you just found this on the book, in the bookcase in this bedroom. Which is a clever way of doing it as well, I think. It's a quick way. Works when you don't have very busy maps, but for that, that's the one reason that I really would want to use some padding. Right. Enough talking anyway. So how long is the stream been so far? We are at 30-something minutes, 38. So I hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you are interested in seeing another system or you want to see any aspect, leave me a comment, drop me a line. My Discord stuff is easy to find on the freely quoted Discord. Let's put it that way. I think I might even have my social media details on here. Yeah, so you can grab them from here. So if you want to get my Discord there, drop me a line if you want to know anything in particular. I'll probably, the systems I haven't done recently are Forbidden Lands. I have done previously though, just the latest version I haven't done. And it's probably one of my favorite implementations. And what else is there? There is Alien. Yeah, I'm not quite sure whether I'm up to demonstrating it because it's a very in-depth system. I have done Rimward, but not the official modules yet. Probably do that as well. I have a good chat with Paul again. We developed it with his mates Bither and Carly. And yeah, there must be something else. Let me see. Mark Boyer, that way around. I haven't done that, but I know nothing about the system other than Book. And it's got my hometown. Right, enough for now. Thank you very much, and might be seeing you next time. Yeah, drop me a comment, drop me